Good morning. At least 75 million young people around the world seek access to meaningful livelihoods. The global youth unemployment rate is currently at 12.6%. In order to generate sustainable growth and avoid a further increase in this rate, at least 400 million new jobs will need to be created. We know that private sector companies alone cannot meet that job demand. So this is why entrepreneurship is essential. Technology can empower entrepreneurs to become drivers of economic and social progress in their home countries and communities. Today, we're here to discuss how global entrepreneurs can reach consumers, build their brand, and grow their business via social media tools. My name is Zinat Rahman. I am the Secretary of State John Kerry's Special Advisor on Global Youth Issues, and I am honored to have the opportunity to connect with all of you online. I am joined by Emily Wilson, Director of Ad Management for Social Code. Social Code is a marketing company which works with clients to find innovative ways to employ social media to target potential and existing customers. Emily works with a number of Fortune 500 companies to help them build communities on Facebook and Twitter, and so please take advantage of her expertise and submit your questions via the chat box on the Connex entrepreneurship page or via Twitter using the handle @Connex, C-O-N-X. Emily, welcome.
Great, thank you. It's great to be here.
Great, I'm going to jump in with a question.
Great.
So first of all, what does marketing via social media really mean for entrepreneurs and small business owners?
Sure. So social media marketing is basically a form of internet marketing that allows advertisers to promote or sell their brand, product, or services through a platform like Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or LinkedIn. There are a lot of advantages to using social media marketing. So the primary one is the cost. Social media marketing is significantly cheaper than traditional media channels like television, billboards, or even email. You can reach the same number of users at a fraction of the cost. It's also the only marketing platform that allows you to interface with your customers directly and establish a meaningful two-way relationship. So you can get direct feedback from your customers about your product or your services, and then you can also message them about new offerings that you have. Results are really measurable, so marketers can easily understand what's performing well, what's not performing well, and because they've established this communication with their customers, what sort of things their customers are actually interested in. And these companies will get direct feedback from their users about what products or services are most interesting to them. And so that's a great aspect for customer relations to feel like they're really being heard by the brand. And I think the last thing is that the wealth of targeting that's available on these social media platforms is pretty insane compared to a lot of these more traditional media channels that you can buy advertising on. So if you think about Facebook, anything that you input into your Facebook about who you are, what you're interested in, where you live, advertisers can target you with ads based on that information. So you can really hone in on who it is that you're looking for and only target those users and reach those users who are actually going to be interested in your product or brand.
It's fascinating. So you mentioned traditional marketing techniques like billboards and sales. When should an entrepreneur business owner turn to social media to market their product or service as opposed to these traditional marketing techniques?
Sure. So I think one thing that can be a little bit scary for advertisers is that having this social media marketing is still pretty new to a lot of people, and it can be a bit intimidating to dive in, not knowing what sort of best practices are or how to measure success. And so traditional media is a little bit easier because it's been in existence for longer, it's been proven as a valuable strategy. But I think what social has is the ability to move a lot faster and be a lot more interactive with customers. So you can get a social media strategy put together and implemented in a much faster way than you could on a traditional channel. The barriers to entry are a lot lower. And you can interact with your customers in a much more direct and meaningful way, which is great.
And so do you think across the board social media marketing is as useful for kind of all business models and products, or is it more effective for some than others?
So we think that social media should be a social media strategy. Every company should have one. Every brand should have a strategy and a presence on social media. Although there are certain industries that maybe certain platforms work better for. So if you're a consumer a product, a retail store, it's great to have a presence on Facebook where you can share content about what you sell or what you do and interact with consumers that way. And then again, Twitter is huge for that, to establish these personal lines of communication between you and your customers. If you are about business to business sales, being on LinkedIn is obviously a great place to be, because that is a social media and a social channel that is designed specifically for business users. If you have a business like a graphic design business that naturally lends itself well to graphics, pictures, that sort of thing, then Pinterest would be a great place to establish a presence. And then if you're about videos and that sort of thing, then you want to be on YouTube. But generally, we recommend that you should think about your social strategy in conjunction with your other strategies. So, and looking at your marketing strategy in sort of a holistic way instead of focusing on individual channels and having them all work together. If that makes sense.
The brand identity.
Right. So you want to make sure that your message is consistent from Facebook to Twitter to TV to Billboard to whatever you're doing, and making sure those are all working together to support your brand and your marketing strategy.
It's fascinating. What social media tools or new technologies should all entrepreneurs be using, and what emerging tools should they be aware of?
Yeah, so again, it very much depends on the brand and on the company. Facebook, we think, is a pretty good place to start with a global user base of over 1 billion people. So likely your customers are on Facebook in some capacity, but again, it's important first step to sort of determine where your audience is and where your customers are. So are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Pinterest? If you can understand that, then you can spend your money or your efforts in sort of the right channel where you're going to get the maximum return on your investment. So I think because barrier to entry is low, people often don't think about and do sort of an audience analysis to figure out where their audience is, but that's a huge and important part of understanding and starting your social strategy, is to be on the right platform where your customers are.
So we have viewers from all over the world tuned in, and it's morning, noon, and evening around the world where we are, where we're tuning into. Do you think social media marketing strategies are the same for global and local businesses? And how do they differ depending on the target country? Or you mentioned the customer demographic, but just kind of the global landscape of this. Can you talk about that?
So I think one great benefit of social marketing is that the internet is global. So that makes every company, whether it's a global corporation or a local business, accessible. Excuse me. It's just one click away. So small fish can compete against big fish on the internet. It's just about finding your sort of target audience and hitting them. I think one big difference between large and small companies is that global brands obviously have larger amounts of resources, which can be good, but a negative for that is that they have to coordinate a lot of different teams together to get that messaging or those advertisements out there. So they have to be vigilant about coordinating strategy, branding, messaging, and offers across many different departments. Small businesses, while they may not have the same amount of resources, can be a lot more nimble in terms of making changes much quicker and that sort of thing. I think for at least on Facebook and Twitter, the offerings, product offerings for advertising are the same whether you're spending $500 million a year or $500 a year. So it's really about the individual taking advantage of all those offerings. For local businesses, like we said, the wealth of targeting that's available on Facebook really allows you to penetrate those local markets with really granular targeting, so you're reaching exactly the right people who you're interested in.
And as an advertiser, you have access to that data?
Mm-hmm. You do. So you can, anybody can create an ad on Facebook, regardless of whether you're an advertiser or you're just an individual on your own Facebook account. And you can, like we said, input any sort of targeting that you want. Based on who you think your customer is. So if you're a video game retailer, you want to target people who are interested in video games. You can target people who are interested in specific video games, who are in specific age and gender demographics, who live in specific areas of the world or specific areas of a particular state or country.
That's amazing. Okay, we're going to go to audience questions. So we have a few questions lined up. We have a question from the Lincoln Reading Lounge in Pakistan. Hello, Pakistan. What should be the cycle of the social media marketing? What days of the week or what times should you post? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question, and it's one that we get from our clients all the time. So people want to make sure that the efforts and the spend that they're putting into Facebook are being maximized on the return. So again, unfortunately, there's no clear 100% right answer for this. It really depends on your brand and your audience, but generally we recommend posting between 1 and 3 times per day. And we would recommend that you are posting almost every day of the week. So you want to keep your users engaged, you want to keep that conversation flowing, and you want to make sure that your posts and what you're promoting on your page is always rising to the top, so that people will see it. So we tend to see generally that middle of the week and toward the end of the day tend to be better performing if you think about people's Facebook or Twitter usage habits. Usually, the end of the day, end of the work day, where people are getting a little bit tired, they tend to spend more time on Facebook, and then when they're home in the evenings, that can also be a great time to reach people. Weekends, we tend to see lower interaction rates, which I think makes sense. People are sort of out of their home, they're not on their computer, they're maybe out doing activities, whereas during the work week, Facebook and Twitter and other platforms can be sort of a break in the workday.
Can you talk about that? You mentioned it, the interactivity part. How important is that to when you post something to make sure that you're communicating with the people who are responding to that post?
Yeah. So Facebook works as a tool. If we're talking about Facebook in particular, has a system called EdgeRank, which is how they determine how posts get shown in your newsfeed when you log into your Facebook. So pages that have high interaction rates, meaning that when they post, there's a lot of fans who are commenting, liking, and sharing their posts. They have higher edge rank, and so their content will be shown higher in the newsfeed, making it more likely that your content would be shown in your friend's newsfeed, their friend's newsfeed, or something like that, and increasing your reach. So constantly keeping your fans engaged with your page is hugely important for generating new fans, keeping your edge rank high, and making sure that your content is actually being shown to people who will be interested in it.
It's basically critical to your advertising
Yeah, so
strategy.
you don't want to build, and it makes sense, you don't want to build a community of people and then sort of totally leave them aside, forget about them. You want to make sure that you're nurturing them, that you're establishing this two-way communication, reaching out to them, understanding, if they have issues with their product or brand, doing customer relations through Facebook and Twitter can be great, or just messaging to them when you have a sale or an event. That kind of thing is huge to do through your social media channels.
Fantastic. We're going to take another question. An online viewer asks, once you've created a Facebook page or Twitter handle, how do you get those first initial followers?
Yeah, so there's sort of two ways. You can try to do it organically, which means not paying for it, or you can pay for it. So when you're trying to build your page organically, it's really important to rely on your own networks. So reaching out to people who you think might be interested in your product or brand, your friends, your existing social network. So if you've created a page on Facebook, share that page with people you're friends with who might also be interested in it, or Twitter. If you want to pay for followers, you can also do that. Like we said, targeting is so important on Facebook and Twitter and other social platforms. So if you have a new Twitter handle and you're a charity that operates in the Middle East, you can target people who are interested in charities who live in the Middle East and likely build your followers that way. Like we said, cost is relatively low on Facebook and Twitter and other social platforms in comparison to other media channels. And we've also seen through our work at Social Code that in areas like the Middle East and Northern Africa, there tends to be less competition in the marketplace, so prices can often be a lot lower, it's a great time to sort of get in there and spend a little bit of money and see a fairly substantial return.
So you've talked a lot about kind of paying for ads on Facebook and Twitter. Can you similarly pay for ads on other social media properties?
Yep. So LinkedIn is the other biggest one right now. Pinterest does not have advertising on it, but you can create your page on Pinterest, and you can always promote that through your Facebook page or your Twitter handle, and working all those things together in conjunction.
It's like another question. So a viewer from Pakistan asks, how would one use social media properly? For example, hashtags on Twitter, anything specific? Would leaving links on Yahoo Answers be considered use of social media?
So I think at Social Code, we think of social media as specifically social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, where people have an identity that's their own, and they're interacting with other people with their own personal identity. So Yahoo Answers, I think we would not consider social media, given that there isn't necessarily a social aspect of it, where you have a personal identity that you're sharing content, you're maybe just answering questions. In terms of how to use social media, I think Twitter hashtags are the most important thing for using Twitter. So if you are sharing content from your Twitter handle, you want to include hashtags that are relevant to your brand, and that if people who are searching for those hashtags, if they see them, they'll see your brand and identify you with that hashtag, maybe discover your brand or product by searching for that hashtag that they hadn't thought of before. On Facebook, I think one thing that we've mentioned is keeping that conversation between yourself and your customers. So having a conversational tone is great on Facebook, talking to or creating posts on your page that are like talking to your customers, and really establishing sort of an informal means of communication and a relationship with your customers that way.
Like on Facebook, that's the most important technique, is like you said, nurturing your
customer relationship, and the best way to do that is to talk to your customers like they're real people.
Right.
So not trying to necessarily feed them a bunch of marketing speak, but talk to them, ask them questions, ask them what they think about your product or brand, share things with them that aren't necessarily, purchase this product, but here's a cool thing that I saw, and here I want to share with all my customers. It's really about creating a relationship, like we said, between the customer and the brand.
So since we're talking about Twitter, I'll say that Emily tweets at Social Code Inc., and I tweet at Znot, just my first name. Another question. A viewer asks, what do you suggest for entrepreneurs who are limited by a lack of funds for social media promotion? Maybe if you only have a budget of $50 a month or something, like where do you go first?
Sure. So I think, like we said before, the tools that are available on platforms like Facebook and Twitter are sort of the same, whether you're spending an insane amount of money or whether you're spending only a little bit of money. And I think the most important thing, if you have a small budget, is just do your research ahead of time. So like we said, understand who your audience is and what they're interested in and how you want to message to them before you spend any money. So design a social media strategy well in advance, and then implement that, and then you're spending your money where you know it's going to make a difference, as opposed to blasting your message out maybe to people who aren't actually going to be interested in your product or offering, and then wasting your money. So we would say start by doing sort of that audience analysis and understanding who is my audience, what are they, where are they, what platforms are they on, and then if they're on Facebook, what are they interested in, and how am I going to reach them? And then making sure that every dollar you spend is really benefiting you and working toward a really outstanding result, as opposed to spending your money sort of indiscriminately.
Right, and I think what you're saying is just that even a little bit of money will show results and impact, so you can even be experimental with that.
Exactly, and we have customers at Social Code that spend, on the smaller end, we have customers that spend a ton, and it's great to see that the results that you get with a small amount of money are very similar or the same as the results you'd get with a larger amount of money, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah, it's great in terms of considering the barriers to entry, because
right. And
previously, you wouldn't have been able to kind of enter that space of
right.
media
And if you're, if you tried to advertise on TV and you only had $50, you maybe would get a 1-second TV spot. Whereas on Facebook, $50 can certainly, and on Twitter, $50 can go a long way.
Fantastic. A question from Rome. So how about Facebook publicity, which are, I guess, Facebook ads? Does it help more than a good strategy applied on your Facebook fan page?
So it depends on sort of what your goals are. Again, if you don't have money to spend on Facebook advertising, running promotions and doing a page content posting strategy would be more than sufficient to generate publicity. You're going to have to rely on your social network and building your network of fans on your Facebook page in order for that content to reach more people. So I think the benefit of using Facebook ads is that you can reach people that you might not normally have reached through your promotion on your Facebook page. So if you post content on your Facebook page, we usually see between 20 and 40% of your fans will see that content. If you want it to be shared with more than that percentage, you're likely going to have to spend a little money to get it out there. But it's definitely not essential that you spend money. You just need to make sure that your content posting strategy is very buttoned up, and you've thought it out and done the research in advance so that you're posting content and reaching the right people with that content.
So you said 20 to 40% kind of eyeballs on it if you're just posting. Mm-hmm. Do you know what percentage that is if you're doing an ad?
It depends how much you spend, but you can get it up to 90% of your base has seen it. And you can also send your promotion or your post content out to people who are not fans of your page and get them to become fans or get them to interact with your content that way as well.
Fantastic. Now we have a question from Chennai. How does a business owner make their product stand out from the other products or services being promoted on Facebook via ads?
Yeah, so I think that's sort of a holy grail. Everybody wants their product to be the one that stands out. And I think, again, establishing the relationship with your customer is really going to set you apart. So if you are a brand, and you sell laundry detergent, there might be 500 other pages of brands that also sell laundry detergent. But if all those other brands are doing is posting, once a week and saying, here's our laundry detergent, buy it today, and you're saying, hey, moms who are doing laundry, here's this really great tip for getting grass stains out of clothes, and creating and making it a relationship that's not just about selling something to the customer, but making it a relationship where it's mutually beneficial. So you're sharing content with your customer that they're interested in, that's not sort of jamming down their throat, buy my product.
Really good advice. A viewer from Uzbekistan asks, could you describe some problems that entrepreneurs are facing today with social media promotion? For example, what are some of the common mistakes that businesses make with social media?
Yeah, so I think one huge mistake is not knowing their audience or doing the research ahead of time and wasting their money or wasting their efforts on people who are not necessarily interested in their content. So again, doing that audience research to understand where your customers are and what they're interested in, and then only spending money or your efforts on those individuals. I think the other thing that people can make mistakes on, that we've seen some of our clients make mistakes on, is not knowing who that audience is or targeting an audience that's not necessarily going to become a consumer of their product. So anecdotally, we worked with a client who was it was in the United States. They were affiliated with a grocery store, and it was a home delivery grocery service product, and they wanted to get fans on their page. And this was an offering that was only available, a company that only available in the United States, and they ended up paying for a huge number of fans from the Philippines. And they thought that was great because they got a lot of fans on their Facebook page. It was relatively cheap. But that's not great in the long run because they've just bought a bunch of fans who can never become consumers of their product. So although they have numbers on their Facebook page, these are users that will not go on to interact with them in any way, so their edge rank will drop. They're also users who can never purchase their product or become consumers of their particular brand. So we definitely don't want to do things like that. We want to make sure that if we're spending our effort or our money, we're targeting exactly who we want to be targeting, who can actually go on to be consumers of our brand. I think another big mistake that people can make is spamming. So posting strategy is important. You want to make sure you're posting enough so that people are staying engaged, but you don't want to be posting 15 times a day or content that's really not relevant to your brand. You want to make sure that if you're running ads, people understand what they're becoming a fan of or what they're clicking on and how that's related to your brand or product. So if you're that laundry detergent brand, you don't want to be posting pictures on your Facebook page of like, women in bikinis and trying to get fans that way, because that's not indicative of what you're actually selling or who you actually are as a brand.
I mean, I feel like two things you keep saying pretty consistently is that you have to, know your audience. Which means, I think, which may be surprising for people, that it's not quantity, it's actually the quality of the people who you're building the community around, and that you have to add value.
Right.
From your perspective.
Certainly.
Right?
So you definitely quality over quantity. Yeah. If you have 1 million Facebook fans, but none of them are going to be consumers of your product or brand, then what's the point? Versus having 500 highly qualified and targeted individuals who are engaging with your page on a daily basis, who are attending your events and buying your product, that's much more valuable to you in the long run.
Great. Another viewer from Pakistan asks, do you recommend marketing via Pinterest, Tumblr, Reddit, or other platforms? And how does marketing work on those platforms?
Sure. So those platforms don't have the sort of advertising capabilities that a platform like Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn does. But that's not to say that you shouldn't have a presence there. So Pinterest is one that we talked about earlier. If your business or company lends itself well to having graphics, pictures, sharing that kind of content, it's great to have a presence there. Although you can't necessarily run ads on that platform, you can support that platform through channels like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And then Tumblr, again, very similar. To have a presence there is great if you have customers there. If a lot of your customers are using Tumblr to share content, then you should be there too. If a lot of your users are using Reddit, then you should be there too. But generally, they don't have the same sort of wealth of ad offerings that platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn do.
And so, can you maybe talk a little bit about the value of just text, written word versus video versus pictures? Does your social media strategy kind of have to encompass all of those things?
Yeah, we recommend that. So again, it depends on what platform you're advertising on, but we tend to see that response rates are higher when you include images or video, which makes sense. If you can share an image that's engaging, funny, interesting, eye-catching, that will perform a lot better than just text about what you do. Obviously, users, when they see an image or a video that's associated with a text, that will be much more engaging and eye-catching.
And then if you're on a space like a Tumblr or an Instagram, should you feed that traffic back to your Facebook? Yeah,
definitely. We recommend, like we said, thinking about your social media presence holistically and making sure that that channel is sort of complete and it's a circle that goes. So if you're sharing content on Facebook, that you're also linking to your Twitter, and that you're bringing in Instagram posts, and all that stuff should be integrated together so that if someone finds you on one channel, they should easily be able to find you on all your other channels.
Got it. So just following up on that, kind of the different properties that exist, another viewer is asking a little bit more about LinkedIn. So when and how should you use LinkedIn?
Yeah, so we see that LinkedIn, like we said, is beneficial for people who are really trying to reach business owners who are doing business-to-business sales.
Give us an example.
Yeah, so we've used it internally. We've had clients run ads on it for credit card signups when they're looking for small business owners to purchase a particular credit card, that sort of thing. So LinkedIn is useful if you're doing things like that, like really looking for people who are in specific industries and need to hyper-target people that way. However, I think the barrier to entry on LinkedIn is slightly higher than it is on Facebook or Twitter. And on Facebook in particular, you are able to reach people based on their job description or company that they work at. So if you don't have a huge amount of money, it might be wise to proxy for people in a particular industry or position via Facebook targeting as opposed to LinkedIn.
And is LinkedIn more specific to an individual versus a company brand?
It depends. So you can target companies, people who work at specific companies, but you can also target individuals who have a specific job title. Okay. So if you're looking to reach, office managers, or if you are a company like Salesforce and you want to reach people who are making decisions about revenue and sales, you can reach people who have the title Chief Sales Officer or Chief Marketing Officer, that kind of thing.
Really interesting. A viewer wants to know, when you say engage your followers on Facebook or Twitter, what exactly does that mean or entail?
Sure. So engagements on Facebook and Twitter just mean people are sharing, liking, commenting, and interacting with your content as opposed to just consuming or viewing it. So it's great if people are seeing your content, but it's much better if people are commenting, liking, and sharing your content.
Okay.
Or retweeting it or favoring it, that kind of thing. That's what we call an engagement.
So you know it's working when you see that stuff happening.
Right, and that can also end up resulting in earned media for you, which we call it social code. So that means that if I see a post on a page and I share it with all my friends, all my network of friends of 500 people or whatever, some of them will see that post. The company that promoted the post to me didn't pay for those people, but that's earned impressions that they got because I shared the content.
And that's one of your goals.
Yeah, so if you're a company and you want more and more people to see your content, getting your users to share your content out to their own networks is a great way to get sort of those earned media impressions and generate your more impressions and more interactions with your content without paying for it.
Very cool. Another question from Pakistan. So there are a lot of fake accounts on Facebook and Twitter. How can you differentiate between real fans and fake fans?
Yeah, and I think that's a question we get a lot at Social Code. I think that sort of gets a little bit overplayed in the media, how many fake accounts there are. Okay. We see that about 90% of Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts are people's actual identity. So I think generally we recommend to our clients that that's not something they really have to worry about if they're targeting their ads in the right way in the first place and they understand who their audience is. Likely 90% of the fans that you acquire or generate on your page are going to be real human people.
Which is great. Which is what you want.
Right, yeah. Exactly what you want. And then if you do feel like you're getting a lot of spam, the way to differentiate is just to sort of refine your targeting of your message even further. So making sure that your messaging is really specific to what you're talking about, to your brand, to your page, making sure you're not getting kind of a bunch of spam people in there because they think that your content is something that it's not.
Right, right. Can you start building a following on social media before your business is launched? While it's still just in the idea phase, can you start building that?
Definitely. You can create a page whenever you feel like it. So you can create a page for something that does not yet exist. That's certainly within the capabilities of Facebook and Twitter. And that can be a good way to sort of generate buzz about a product that is maybe launching later. We have done that for clients where they have a product that might not be launching until the fall, but they want to create buzz about it in the spring and summer. So sharing that content, getting people excited about something that's coming can be really influential.
And is the strategy different for kind of before it launches to when you actually have a product?
So I think it depends, but again, having that strategy laid out in advance is great. So knowing what kind of content you're going to be posting before, during, and after launch, and then heavying up during the launch time and then post-launch to make sure that what you've shared is really getting out there.
Okay.
And again, using language that will generate buzz in advance. So asking users questions, sharing images, maybe like a snapshot of what the product might look like, or teasers about what the product might be. That can be a really great way to engage your fans and people on Facebook and Twitter.
So we have an important question from Pakistan. How do you define the word entrepreneurship? Who can be considered an entrepreneur?
I think anybody can be considered an entrepreneur. If you have an idea of something for a business, for something you want to sell or share, you're an entrepreneur, and it's just taking what you've sort of your idea and putting it into reality. That sort of moves from the idea stage to actually executing it is when you really develop that entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think anybody who has an idea and takes it from creation to realization is an entrepreneur. And I think we're talking about technology tools or social media tools. Oftentimes people think entrepreneurs are only technology focused, and frankly, in many places in the world when I travel, I meet entrepreneurs who are offering services in their community or selling a product that's really specific to where they live, and they're not online, and it's not only technology entrepreneurs.
Right. As long as, if you're filling a need or a service that doesn't exist, that you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. One example that I remember all the time is an entrepreneur I met who's based in the U.S. and he's doing a lot of work all around the world now, sign spinning. So he has people stand on corners doing ad sales by spinning signs. And now every time I notice a sign spinner, I think of him because he is an entrepreneur. He's not a Twitter, but he's an entrepreneur. So.
Exactly.
A question from Bangladesh. Do you think a social network just for the purpose of business marketing will ever be created? And would that be a good business idea? That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. It's one that I haven't heard before. I think that it's possible, but I think having the content, like the ads on Facebook and Twitter, integrated into the content that you're consuming on a daily basis is sort of the optimal way to do it. So it's making people feel like the advertisements that they're seeing are very relevant to them personally based on this information that they've shared. And I can't imagine that a business marketing social network would ever have that level of users. So who wants to be a member of a social network where they just get ads served to them all the time? So user base would be an issue, and I also imagine that targeting and having insights into who those users are would probably be an issue. So one thing that we said about Facebook is that it's to your advantage to share what's actually true about you on your Facebook. So it's not good to have a fake name and a fake profile on Facebook because then you can't connect to anybody. Right. You want to have a profile that's indicative of who you are, where you live, what you do. And so that makes it extremely valuable for marketers because all that information that people have shared on their Facebook is true about them. So you can target people in a way that is much more refined than other social platforms. So I think having the holistic platform where you can interact with your friends and share your photos and watch videos and then also get ads served to you is sort of a better way to do it because everything is sort of encompassed under that one platform.
And then I think as a business owner, then you can show how you're adding value to somebody's life, not just when they think about products.
Exactly, and not just trying to sell them something, but establishing that relationship and having a customer when they go to buy laundry detergent think of your product because they've interacted with you on Facebook as opposed to some other product.
Another question from Bangladesh. How can I make sure that my posts are reaching my target market, and what do you recommend in regards to data analysis?
Sure. So you can target your posts on Facebook. When you go to create a post, you can set up parameters to say, I only want this post to be shown to people who live in this specific area or are part of this specific demographic, which is a good way to gate your post. So if you're promoting a contest that's only available in certain regions, you want to make sure that those other regions are not seeing that content that aren't eligible for that particular promotion. Through advertising, again, targeting, you can refine even further. So making sure that your content, if you're promoting it through ads, is only being served to people who are interested in it. So you can add, again, gender, age, geolocation, and then keyword targeting. So targeting people who are only interested, if you're that laundry detergent brand, targeting people who are interested in home house care, cleaning products, or maybe moms who have children, that sort of thing.
And so how do you know that it's working?
So you know that it's working when you get good engagement rates, basically. Okay. So you know that you're hitting the right people when people are engaging with your content. If you are promoting your posts and you're getting, a lot of negative feedback of people saying, I don't like this, or commenting negatively, or not getting a lot of likes or shares, then that's a good indicator to you that you need to refine your targeting and reach a more highly targeted audience that maybe is going to be more interested. That makes sense.
Yeah. Engagement.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about engagement.
That's what you keep saying, and I think people should remember that. Question from Chennai. When we market a business through social media, what should the strategy be? Should we market the product itself or post about something else which the targeted customer base might be interested in, even if it's not necessarily related to the product?
I think having a blend of the two is key. So we want to make sure that people know what it is that we're advertising for, what the product is, and ultimately we want people to buy that particular product, right? So we want to make sure that we're including information about our product or brand. At the same time, like we said, having a relationship with your customer is much more should be much more deeper and complex than just saying buy my product. So like we said with the laundry detergent example, sharing information with those customers about how to get grass stains out of clothes, or if it's Mother's Day, having a post about Mother's Day for all the mothers who use that product is great. So you want to do a blend of both, making sure that you're making what you're selling very clear to the user, but then continuing to engage them with maybe content that isn't directly relevant to buying your brand, but is relevant to your overall sort of how you want to be a part of your customer's life.
So just a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
So let's say if you have like a coffee shop in Chennai, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to open that and draw customers physically to come there. Do you then go on social media and look for, the other coffee shops that are your competitors and try to kind of draw from there?
Yeah.
Or do you post about coffee beans or?
Both. So you can post about coffee beans and what kind of coffee beans you use in your particular store. You can post, here's an anecdote about somebody who, came to our coffee shop and met their wife there. Human interest stories. Or here's a video about how the company that we work with produces their coffee. And then also sharing content like, hey, today is Tuesday and you get 10% off this particular coffee, so come in today. And then competitive conquesting is what we call it at Social Code,
Okay.
And that's great.
Yeah.
It's basically going after your competitors and their fans. So if somebody is a fan of coffee shop A in Chennai, they're probably going to be interested in coffee shop B. And you can, on your page, explain to your customers, how are you different from coffee shop A? Do you have, better beans or a better roasting technique, or you have Wi-Fi in your store, that kind of thing. And using that your Facebook page to differentiate yourself from your competitors.
Really helpful. Another question from Chennai. With the current growth of live streaming video, in the case of India particularly, live streaming of sports games, the potential customer base is around 1 million and growing every day. Can live stream video be considered the next it thing in social media? And how can entrepreneurs tap into that and integrate that with other social media platforms?
So I think it sort of depends where that live video is coming from and if there is a social aspect to it. So if you're just live streaming a video and there's no chat room, there's no personal identity, that's not necessarily social media. And if you're a company that's doing that sort of thing, you want to make sure that you're integrating your social channels in it. So if you're live streaming something, you should have a chat on Facebook at the same time about that content and integrating those all together. I think that kind of user base, if there's 1 million people watching a live stream, you should certainly be capitalizing on that. That's a huge user base that's all in one space at the same time. So maybe you join the Twitter conversation about that and you draw users to your page by using the hashtags or interacting with them about what's happening in the live stream.
Really interesting. A question from Nigeria. Do you have any tips about selling products on Amazon and driving traffic to your product on Amazon?
So again, Amazon not technically a social network, but you should certainly be, if that's your goal, is to sell products on Amazon. Creating a Facebook page and a Twitter handle to help you do that is obviously hugely important. So if you're a retailer and you have a Facebook page where you can post a picture of something that you're selling and say, here, I'm selling this product for this amount of money, and if you order today, I'll give you 10% off, and here's a code. And then you can direct your users from Facebook to Amazon itself, or from Twitter to Amazon, and drive traffic that way. And then again, you're sort of keeping that holistic strategy of the channels of communication are all leading back to Facebook or Twitter, or one central location.
But on the topic of like the engagement that you keep talking about, if you have customers writing reviews and stuff on Amazon, you should be interacting with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's a little bit tricky, so you don't want to, if people are writing negative things, you don't necessarily want to engage people in a negative way. But if somebody writes, this is the best product I've ever used, sharing that content, you can share that content on Facebook out to your fans. You can communicate with that person on Facebook to say, thank you so much, here's a coupon for the next thing you buy. And then that customer has a really great feeling about your brand. Not only did they buy a really great product from you, but you told them you were really happy that they liked your product, and you gave them another chance to come back and buy something else.
Really interesting. Another question, is it possible to evaluate your business idea through social media to see if it's worth your investment?
Yeah, definitely. So we've done that for clients before, not just a business idea, but messaging, and determining, what, for, like we said, the cost of advertising on social media is so much lower than advertising on TV or billboards, and that makes it easy for you to test different messaging or ideas on a smaller scale before you spend a huge amount of money on it. So great business ideas you can share. You can create a Facebook page, like we said. If your business doesn't exist yet, create a Facebook page for it and see if people respond well to it, if it would actually be viable. You can do polls on Facebook, so you can, instead of posting a picture, you can post a poll and say to your users, if we sold this product or if we had this idea, would you be interested in it? That sort of thing. So you can really gauge whether your idea is viable, and that's a great place. Facebook and Twitter are a great place to do that because users are so interactive and engaged.
From India, in India, people still have more faith in vendor or retail stores over online stores. How can social media bridge this gap?
Yeah, so I think what's great about Facebook is that you don't have to be, and you definitely don't have to be a technology company, like we said, or an online store to have a Facebook presence. If you're a brick and mortar store, you should have a Facebook presence too, so that people can locate you on Facebook and then make the move into your store. So we have done a lot of work for retail stores at Social Code, where we're driving people to their Facebook page where they can share content about offers and all that kind of stuff. And then the ultimate goal is to get those Facebook users into their stores. And that is part of sort of the complex strategy of messaging, sharing offers to get people in person in the store. In order to bridge the gap between online sales and retail sales, Facebook can be great at that. Like we said, in developing a page for your retail store, it doesn't have to have an online presence. You don't have to be able to purchase things online, but it's still great for your users to see, here's a picture of this new product that they have in the store. It's a new, or they are featuring a new designer. And they see that on Facebook and they say, oh my gosh, I have to get into the store, and then they go there that weekend, basically. So again, it's just about promoting what you have available and sharing that in a more meaningful way. That makes sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think of like cutting coupons, right? And you, back in the day, would cut a coupon to go into a store, but you would probably buy more things than just the thing you had the coupon for. It's kind of the same thing.
Right. And if you're a retail store, being able to share in pictures and in video what you're actually selling in your store is a great way to get people in the door. So if you have a new product or you're selling, a new brand or a designer, and being able to tell people that on Facebook is a great impetus for them to visit your store, and they might not have known that otherwise.
And I think what Emily keeps saying too is that it doesn't, whatever your product is, kind of whatever your whether you're online or offline or doing retail sales or doing a technology thing, you need to have a social media plan.
Yeah, and you need to have a presence regardless. So in these days, if I hear about a store that I'm interested in, I'm going to look that store up on Facebook before I ever visit it in person. Yeah. And if you're trying to get people in the door of your retail business, it's great to share your content about what they can expect to see on your Facebook page, so that'll drive them into the store quicker because they've seen, hey, this is what they actually sell and I really like this, so I'm going to get into the store today or tomorrow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A viewer asks, is it possible to evaluate this virtual relationship between a customer and a trader? I think you talked about this a little.
Yeah, so I think you can evaluate the relationship based on, are you getting sales? So a good way to evaluate that is to have, when you check people out at your store, you can ask them, how did you find us? Did you find us via Facebook? Did you find us via Twitter? Or you can have, Facebook or Twitter or social specific offerings, so that if someone comes into your store with a coupon that they've printed from Facebook, that coupon is only available on your Facebook page, and so that user has come directly from Facebook. And that's a good way to measure it. And then again, measuring by the number of people and the amount of engagements and feedback that you're getting as well. So that's a good way to understand, is my customer really interested in my product?
So you ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you ask
You ask for the
basically,
feedback.
and you can you can do those types of poll ads. You can ask your customers questions. Yeah, exactly. So just interacting with them and asking them how they feel about your product or brand is a great way to get that feedback.
Right. Another viewer from Pakistan says, do most people skip the ads or become desensitized to them because they see them so often?
And that's a question that we often get from our customers as well. And I think it depends again, but on Facebook and Twitter, the goal of their platform is to make the ads integrated into your day-to-day exploration of the platform as seamless as possible. So an ad on Facebook doesn't look like an ad or like a banner ad on a website that's flashing in your face and things are changing and it's intrusive, it's interrupting how you consume content on Facebook. The goal is to have that content look so natural in your Facebook feed that you don't even notice that it's an ad. And that's what we tend to see. I mean, if you are running ads for a really long period of time, users can become desensitized to what they're seeing, and that's why it's really important to change your strategy, to have content that you can sort of refresh, to change out the images and the copy, to make sure that what users are seeing is fresh in their mind. Social media is definitely not a place where you can sort of set it and forget it. It's definitely, you need to continue to interact with your customers, change your strategy based on how it's performing. And because you get such immediate results, it should be fairly easy for you to do that. Right. But yeah, again, you don't want to, put some content out there and then not look at it for another 2 months. You want to make sure that you're evaluating regularly whether what you're doing is working and then tweaking it to make it work even better.
And then can you kind of speak to that regarding Twitter? Because don't the Twitter kind of promotional ads go to the top of a hashtag feed?
Yeah, exactly. But again, like Twitter is even more important because the immediacy of Twitter is such that if you promote something, it could do well for a day and then the next day it might do terrible.
Right.
Or the next day there might be somebody who's also trying to get that space, they're outbidding you and your ads are not serving. So again, making sure that you're constantly tweaking your strategy based on how the marketplace is operating and how what you've put out there is performing. On Twitter, having a presence and immediacy and a recency to your tweets is really important. So if you tweeted 3 weeks ago, that tweet got seen, a huge amount at the beginning, but nobody's seeing that tweet now. So if that's content that you really want to be sharing, you need to make sure you recirculate it so it's rising to the top again. And
you talked a lot about the importance of hashtags and establishing your identity on Twitter. And obviously, oftentimes you could see what hashtags are trending, whether in your country, your city, the world.
Yeah.
Can you take advantage of those hashtags to draw people to you, or is that annoying?
Definitely. So, you want to make sure that if you're doing that, the hashtags are relevant to what you're sharing. So you don't want to take a hashtag and just throw it at the end of your tweet, even if it doesn't make any sense. But if you see something is trending and you can see a way to apply that to your brand or your service, then that's a great way to get your message out to hopefully a larger number of people. So like we said with the live streaming video, if it's a sporting event and you're the laundry detergent company, you might throw that hashtag on and say, if your uniforms are really dirty, this is a great product for you.
And that doesn't turn consumers off?
It depends how relevant it is. It can. There might be some people that might not like that, but likely the number of people who are offended by it is going to be far outweighed by the number of people who are interested in it or who don't pay any attention to it at all.
Okay, great. As privacy is being stressed these days, could it be possible for an entrepreneur to monitor their browsing habits and target specific ads, or do you have to go through Facebook or a third party to do that?
So Facebook does have an offering where you can target people based on their browsing habits on other sites. And this is recently released. It's available to people through Power Editor, which is the tool that you can use to create Facebook ads. It's called Partner Categories. So Partner Categories is basically, Facebook has partnered with these 3 third-party data sites, and they measure people's buying and purchasing behavior on other sites on Facebook. So if you're that laundry detergent company, you can go into these partner categories, and there might be a partner category that is called, frequent buyers of home cleaning products. And you can target people who on other sites besides Facebook often buy or are interested in detergent or cleaning supplies like that. So that's a really great way to make sure that, who you're targeting on Facebook is actually doing what you want them to do on other channels off of Facebook. And hopefully your targeting is also so refined and people's identities are so real on Facebook that that shouldn't matter. But this is just another way to connect people's off Facebook behavior with their on Facebook behavior.
What they're doing in the real world.
Right. So hopefully what they're doing in the real world is very much like what they're doing on Facebook, but this is just a great way to connect those two things together. And partner categories run the gamut from people who are likely to purchase BMW motorcycles to people who love to exercise and eat healthy. So they're really specific, and they can be really great for people who are trying to connect on and offline behavior.
So social media marketers usually say that posts with pictures get more engagement, but according to my experience, normal posts get more engagement and more reach in Facebook. What do you think, Emily? So I'll add one extra thing to that, which is that I think in a lot of the markets where this is being viewed, smartphones may not be, it's the way that they're consuming social media may be different. So does that, if you're on a phone, is that different? Or if you have a slower internet download rate, maybe pictures don't work?
Yeah, I think that's definitely could be possible. If you are in an area where, content doesn't load as quickly or pictures you can't see them as well on your phone, it might be to your benefit to just share content in text or something like that. And that, again, is just, you should be testing all these different things and figuring out for yourself what works. So there is definitely not one size fits all social media strategy. It really depends on who you are, where you are, and what you're advertising. So it's great to be able to say, this is what's working for me. It might not work for somebody else, but if you've determined that it works for you, that's definitely what you should be doing.
And it kind of goes back to your mantra of know who your customer is, and then develop a strategy around that.
Right. And so Facebook, you can target people by a specific device that they're on. So you can say, I only want to target people who are using iOS or Android. And so that can be useful to you as well. So if you're, advertising for your app, and your app is only available on Android, you can limit your targeting to only those people. And if you know, again, that your users tend to not have smartphones and to consume content on their desktop computer, then you can tweak your strategy based on where your users and your audience are.
There's such a high level of specificity that you can get to. It's amazing.
Right, and that doesn't exist anywhere else, which is really, really makes Facebook and Twitter such great platforms to work on, because you can get to your users in such a more detailed way. And as opposed to search marketing or TV, you're not waiting for your users to find you. You're going out and finding your users before they even know.
And particularly to new entrepreneurs, who do need to kind of try out a lot of things, who may not have a huge budget, who are trying to improvise in every category as they're building an idea.
Exactly.
So, okay, we have time for one last question, and this is a question from Italy. What is the best way to manage negative comments and feedback on your Facebook and Twitter? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
For instance, if you're being spammed by it and it will negatively influence your brand image, is it acceptable to delete posts, and when might you do this?
Yes, I think it definitely is acceptable to delete posts. So if you're getting posts on your comments, or you're promoting something and you're getting posts about, work from home and make $12 an hour, or spam, things like that, it's definitely acceptable to delete those. Likely people who spam your page are spamming so many different pages that they're not going to notice that you deleted their content, and you're making the experience better for your fans who are actually interested in what you're posting. In terms of negative comments, it can be a tricky situation. If you delete someone's negative comment, that might spur them on to comment more negatively. They might feel like their voice is not being heard, and that could be, have an even more negative impact. What we see a lot of our customers do is try to move those conversations from the public Facebook wall back into sort of the private messaging. So, or send those customers that have had negative experiences to their customer service department, or provide a phone number that they can call and share those things with. So generally, if a user has a negative comment but you respond to it and say, I'm so sorry you had that negative experience, here's our customer service line, or here's a coupon, that's going to make the user feel like their voice was heard, that this is a brand that they might come back and use again because their concern was really valued and appreciated, and that their concern was really given sort of credence, and people understood that this is a problem and they wanted to fix it.
So you should engage those negative comments, maybe take them to a private space so you're directly kind of having that two-way engagement.
Right, and you want to make sure that you're not necessarily responding to every negative comment, but only those where you can offer some sort of constructive solution. So if someone is constantly saying, your page sucks, you suck, something like that, that's probably not worth engaging that user because they're not really ever going to be interested in your content. You can block them if they're really bothering you. But if it's a user who says, I was in your store the other day and nobody helped me, or I bought this product and it broke, that's a great opportunity for you to develop a customer relationship with them, to say, we're so sorry that happened, here's our customer service line, call us and we'll make it right. That sort of thing can be great.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I want to thank you for sharing your insights today with us, Emily. And thank you to everyone who participated in this chat online. A very active chat, fantastic questions. I know I learned a lot. But just because today's chat is coming to a close does not mean that our conversation about entrepreneurship and social media tools is over. On the contrary, today's chat should serve as a launching pad for the longer-term conversation. So I encourage you to stay in touch with the contacts you made today through today's conversation online, and I invite you to join the State Department's Facebook page, which is dedicated to promoting entrepreneurship. It's called Innovation Generation. And again, to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @Zeenat, ZEENAT, and Emily's is Social Code Inc. And so depending on where you joined us from today, have a great day, good afternoon, or good night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
This program has been brought to you by Connex.